Tonight we're going to be talking about crisis, and we're going to have several different subtopics for the crisis. The first I'm hoping to deal with is the financial crisis. The second will be personal crisis, and the third, environmental crisis. Now, when I first was approached about this, particularly the financial crisis, I was wondering...
Wait, it's commercial.
I was who?
Commercial.
Oh, now we have a commercial. We're in a commercial now?
Mm-hmm. Don't look at me, though. Repeat the topic.
Are we back on air?
Yep.
Okay, here we are. Sorry about that, folks. Let me talk a little bit about the financial crisis.
Introduce your topic again.
Tonight is crisis, and three different ways to look at crisis. First, the financial aspect, second, the personal crisis, and lastly, the environmental crisis. You know, the word crisis is a Greek word, and it has something to do with an event happening in someone's life or the life of a community where all of a sudden things become unstable and dangerous, and it forces either the individual or the group to decide to do something about the instability that's forced on them. The Chinese have another take on crisis, and they look at the word crisis and the meaning of crisis as the chance for an opportunity. Now, we all share the same basic understanding of crisis. It's something none of us want to go through. I don't want to face a crisis. I want to have a stable relationship with everything I come in contact with in my life.
Michael, if I have no money to buy beer, is that considered a crisis?
Hell no. Only crises that should exist are the ones where it involves the basic necessities. And what we're talking about in the world today is basic necessities in a place like Japan. There is a crisis, not the fact that you might not have enough money to buy beer for tomorrow night. The crisis is sometimes an issue of life and death. A crisis is when you don't know what is going to happen the very next day. You don't know if there's going to be food. You don't know if it might just be your last day. That is crisis. Now, I didn't want to get into that right away. We all know what's happening in the world today. We know what happened in Haiti not too long ago. We know these things are happening, and some people say it's not like it was in the past. We're seeing more and more of these crises. Now, some people will say, well, it's the news media. They're presenting more and more for the viewing public to see. Hell no. We are seeing more and more crises, not because the news media is getting into the four corners of the world. It's because there are more happening. They're happening all over the world, in the world, and part of the world. I mean, let's face it. We know about volcanoes. We know about the shifting of the plates in our world, in our universe, how the things outside of Earth are affected in the Earth itself. But all of a sudden, we are now becoming more and more aware that things are changing more rapidly. Things are becoming more of a crisis than we have ever been faced with before in our lifetime. Now, let's just take a look at this. Here we have, 4 different nuclear reactors that may cause what we in America once called the China syndrome. Now, let me explain what that China syndrome was, because I remember it well. I was there with 3 Mile Island. I was a news reporter. I was one of only 6 who were permitted into 3 Mile Island right after Jimmy Carter, the president, toured it. And I reported on 3 Mile Island, and I'll tell you, we were scared. Anyone who tells you they weren't scared is lying to you. Think of the people here in the Philadelphia area, just outside, who were evacuated. They were evacuated. They were scared. They were getting phone calls from all over the world, particularly from their family and loved ones.
Michael, we have a few questions from the viewers here.
Okay. Chernobyl was number 2, and now here we are in Japan. Crisis after crisis after crisis. Go ahead.
Viewer Roxa mentions that different people have different basic necessities. Some might think, for example, that not having a yacht is the absence of a basic necessity. This viewer goes on to say, in reference to what you had said, that we do not know if we are going to live tomorrow. We are all in God's hands. Followed by a response from another viewer who said, why doesn't God like the Japanese people?
God, well, let's say the Creator, does nothing bad. There is good. There is none else besides him, and he is all good. Now, we have to take a look at tragedy. We have to take a look at these turmoils and understand that we can't understand. Most of the time, we can't fathom what is going on that will cause a ripple effect that will be the goodness that we may take years in order to find how it first formed. Now, getting back to the yacht, if you need a yacht for your job, if you need it in order to sell sales, if you need a yacht, then by all means, you might desperately need to get a yacht. Now, if you just need it to have fun and go partying, well, that's not a basic necessity. I'm sorry. Nor is a Corvette, nor is something that is beyond what you can get by with. And the extra that you have, that you don't need to spend, you can help someone else. Maybe someone in Japan, maybe someone who is looking at a life or death situation. Now, why does God not love Japanese people? We cannot even think that God is anything but benevolent. It is when we go in that direction, when we start turning our back on the goodness in the world. God is all good. It may take our imbecile minds, it may take our tiny little fraction of the brain to understand that. And like I said, it may take years until we find out the good that is in some of these tragedies, but there is good. Now, what I have learned in my journey is a lot of times there are some things that we consider to be really bad, horrible things. And only afterwards do we realize that had it not been for those horrible, nasty, bad things, we would never have gotten off our duff. We would never have made the changes necessary to get more in tune with creation, with our Creator, with the balance that we need to have in nature.
Michael, if it's all good, then why are we talking about crisis?
Because sometimes crisis sometimes is needed. Sometimes not only for the individual, but also for society. There's something that is taught about how things are affected both on the, I think it's the individual versus, strike that, the general versus the specific. And we have to look at how something can affect you, something can affect me. I injure my toe. That part of my body is painful, and I have to work around it. But I pay attention. I'm forced to pay attention. I'm forced to do something to compensate for the pain that goes on there. I may have to do something that I never had done before, only to find out that that is my calling in life. I can no longer be a typist. I must be a reader, maybe a reader for the blind. Crazy? Yeah. What I'm trying to show you is that we just never know how something as minuscule as a busted finger may cause you to change, to do something that you were meant to do, perhaps. A lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that there are certain things in life that we have been destined to do. Now, again, we don't have control, but there's a saying that if not for me, who else will be for me? And that's when you, knowing that you have very little control of the major thrust of life, you still have to get up every morning as if you are the one to take action. You can't just sit back and hope that some other force out there, some other religious group, I have faith in that one who will take care of everything. Bullshit. I'm sorry to use that terminology. You have to act. You have to be for yourself and force yourself. And that's what a crisis does. A crisis forces you to look at things differently.
Our viewer Blanc Roux asks, who is in control? Is it good or bad?
The control is good. The control is bringing you and me back to where we need to be, back to where we should have been had we not let our own egos get in the way. I mean, let's face it. Why is there a crisis? Why is there a financial crisis? It's because people want more and more money. People want more and more fulfillment of their corporeal desires. I want more time to go to the basketball game, to drink my beer, to cheer on my latest team. I need to have that. I gotta have the best shoes for my children. I gotta drive the fanciest car. I've gotta have all these things. I read about them day in and day out, and the whole society, the media, is telling me to purchase more and more and more. You can only become better if you have more.
Well, why is it bad to have more money?
What does it give you? What does the material things actually give you? You will want more and more and more, and you will realize that you're not going to reach the fulfillment you think is in that materiality. The only way you can find fulfillment is doing for others. Doing for yourself, your family, your community. Doing and helping to provide for the basic needs. Anything above that, do for another. Contribute, help, give of yourself. That is how we can avoid the crisis. That is how we can get around what has been perhaps an opportunity given to us to change. Wouldn't you like to change? Wouldn't you like to see the entire world change? And not just look at the me generation, or not just the. It's me, thee. No, it's we. W-E. It's all
Vassar
of us.
Mutar says you are talking about society, but our society can't make any consolidated decision today.
What is society but more than one individual in a group? And it starts at small. We, whenever more than one of us are gathered in a group as friends, we can make a change. It may not be the most significant, largest change in the world, but it will be the first step in the direction to show all of mankind that it can work. It's love.
As Vassar Mutar says, we need a disaster to start to see something. That seems sad.
Well, we need two ways. A disaster is the push. A disaster is the way to kick us in the butt. A disaster is the way for us to be led with the stick. The other way is to realize that through friends, like-minded people who understand that, there's another way to approach, another way to get to where we need to be. There is a force that's above us, in us, and all around us. And we can tap into that force. We can become part of that force if we just allow it to happen. Now, I'm not talking about some pie in the sky. I'm not talking about some fairy tale here. I am talking about a reality that is as close to you as the adjustment that an eye doctor makes when he's clicking one eye prescription from one click to the other click. Is that better? Yes, doctor. How about that? That's even better. And you will see there is reality. There is so much clear cleanliness, so much purification in the world. But it takes time. It takes a change in perception, a new way of looking at things, a new way of dealing with tragedy, catastrophe.
But how many disasters can we handle?
One at a time. We just deal with them one at a time. I mean, our life is a disaster that we deal with one day after another. And I'll tell you, sometimes if you look at it that way, it might be beneficial. What do you have that is so important in your life that is greater than nature? What do you have that is more significant than the Creator who placed us here? Once we realize that we have very little, that we are already among the walking dead, once we know that we don't have life in us without that spirit, without that hope, without that faith above reason, we might as well be dead. We might as well have a tragedy upon tragedy day after day. It's when we realize it, when we say to ourselves, I don't want this death anymore. I don't want to walk around like a zombie. I want life. I'm not going to get it out of money. I'm not going to get it out of the financial institution. My 401k, it's a 201k. Where's the happiness that that's supposed to bring me, huh? It ain't there. It never will be there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for getting emotional. I'm sorry for cursing a little bit. I'm sorry for just bringing all this to you and making you feel my pain. I do have pain. I have pain whenever I think of the crises that are going on. You know, I think of the families that can't get in touch with their loved ones. They don't know where they are. Now, we're not just talking about people living in cities. We're talking about people in villages, people who don't have the same type of contact that you and I, you in America, you perhaps living in a country where we have access through the internet, telephone system. And then we hear of a body being washed up on the shore. Male, female, child. We are that person. We are that family. We are that one. We have to understand that that backyard is everyone's backyard. And until we realize that and take it into our understanding, take it into our own hands to say, we can do better, we're not going to do better. We have to give. We have to learn not to always receive.
How can we understand? And are we capable? Asked the viewer.
That's the first step. Asking, how can we understand? Where can I seek the answer? How can I find out more? And you can do it. You can do it. I mean, you have access to the internet. You can Google it. I mean, if you are listening to me right now, you have already taken that first step. You have some sort of interest. You have some sort of, investment in this right now. You can take it a step further. You can take your belief and have it grow more and more. You don't have to be tied to your past. You can break the shackles. Go forward. Be free. Be the person you were meant to be. Be the loving, compassionate person. And once you get in that frame of mind, once you reach that level of consciousness, it can happen for everyone. I mean, is it utopia? Is it Shangri-La? It's a reality that is there for us to form. And all we have to do is find the right environment, to choose the environment to deal with our crisis. I'm the last person you ought to ask about financial crisis, by the way. I don't even pay my taxes. I pay my taxes, but I don't keep records. Even when I was working full time, you would think that a lawyer would be the one taking care of all the money. No, I let my wife take care of it. She was the financial banker in the family. I don't know why. I get high grades in taxation, corporate law, something called secured transactions. But I could care less about money. Now, is that good or bad, or is it just plain stupid? I don't know. I don't have that much concern about the financial crisis that's going on now. And I think those who are more invested in are having the worst time. We're going to take a break now, and we'll see you soon.